Michael from Achieve Your Champion, as well as Christina from Type Zero Foundation. So how everything will go is we'll just introduce ourselves, give you a little bit of context with what we'll be talking about, and then we'll go into conversation. So I'll start with you all, and then I'll give a little background about Savvy. So maybe Christina, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Christina Martin, and I am a professional dancer. I am the executive director of Type Zero Foundation here today and a motivational speaker. And I live every day with type 1 diabetes. I'm really excited to be here speaking with you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. And then Michael, would you like to go? And then we'll pass it to Damon.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Booker, former NFL player. Now I'm actually teaching high school World Geo and African American Studies at Lakeview Centennial High School. My foundation that Damon and I got together was based off the fact of some of the things that were going in that we've seen in the public when it came to kids and the lack of resources to get healthy meals. So we thought that we could put together an organization where we can combat some of the lack of resources by giving them exercise, good food, and a way to get their schedule in a routine that's going to live a healthy lifestyle. That's it.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Damon Marrero. I'm the executive director of Achieve Your Champion. And I also work for a Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation as a development manager here in Southern California. My connection is my son, who is now 17, is a type 1 diabetic. He was diagnosed when he was 8 years old in 2013. I'm happy to be here, and let's get going.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I'll give a little background about Savvy, and then we'll go into the conversation. So my name is Ariel, and I'm the Community Partnerships Coordinator for Savvy Cooperative. Our main mission and goal is to connect patients and caregivers, diverse patient and caregiver voices, with healthcare innovators to make a better healthcare system. And we do this through focus groups, in-depth interviews, asynchronous workshops, research of all kinds. We are super excited to be patient-led and patient-centered in anything and everything that we do. And we are always looking to bring more people to the table as far as co-creating products, co-creating treatments that actually serve the patients and caregivers that they are being marketed to. So that is our entire mission. And like I said, super excited to be here and to be leading this series. I'd love to give a little bit of a background about just the trust gap and you know, things that I've witnessed in my life, and then I'll of course pass it to our presenters here. But I wanted to start by letting you all know that my mom and I passed away on the table when I was born. While I don't consider myself a patient or really have a patient background, this is something that is a part of my life and has always been a part of my life. And it's something that's really important to me and my journey through this life and navigating, you know, how this I guess second chance at life, for lack of a better way to say it. But yeah, it's really important because I definitely can understand the gaps in the healthcare industry, and a lot of what I do comes from that perspective. And that was why I was drawn to Savvy, is because we are always looking to make sure that patients and caregivers are involved in the process of things and are involved in the co-creation of things, because it matters, right? It matters that we are involved so that things like that don't happen to other patients or to other moms bringing in life. And so that is my perspective and why I am here and why I'm excited to be here. I do want to give a little bit of a background about the Tuskegee experiment. I think it's important that we talk about it in the Navigating the Trust Gap series. The Tuskegee experiment happened in 1932, and it was where 600 Black men were adopted into a study on untreated syphilis without their informed consent. They were told that they were being treated for bad blood, which was a common term that referred to a variety of ailments at the time. They were also told that the study was only supposed to last 6 months, and the study ended up lasting for 40 years, from 1932 to 1972. Around 15 years into the study, penicillin, a drug that was used to treat syphilis, became available. These men, however, were not offered this treatment. By the end of the study, 28 participants had passed away from syphilis, 100 had passed away from related complications, and at least 40 spouses had been diagnosed with syphilis, and it had been passed during childbirth to 19 children. And so this is sort of the background of why a lot of, I know people in my family in particular, may not trust the medical system, is because these things have happened to Black individuals in the past, and that it makes for a lot of hesitation in the healthcare community and just coming to healthcare and coming to your doctor. And so what we'll be talking about today with Achieve Your Champion and Type Zero is understanding how their organizations are grappling with this, how their organizations are helping kids and families to navigate the system, specifically in the diabetes sector, and why that information is important to know and is important to tell families and figure out the best way to go about advocating for oneself in the healthcare industry. So I'll pass it to Christina to maybe talk a little bit more about Type Zero and why it was founded, some things that she has going on there, and then I'll pass it to Damon and Michael, and then we'll go into question time for me.
Thank you. Type Zero Foundation was founded in October of 2016, and it started because of my personal diagnosis. So I was diagnosed with type 1 when I was 13, and it was a very scary and confusing experience for me and for my family. We couldn't figure out why this was happening to me, and we didn't know anybody else that around us that was also dealing with this condition. So there was a lot of feeling alone, especially for me as the one who had the condition. But I know it affected me and my whole family. And so a few years later, it didn't take me long to realize that I wanted to do something to help others, because even if I couldn't find a cure for my own diabetes, I could help other kids, other parents, families, individuals to not feel the way that we felt. And so within a few years, when I was in high school, I started a club, and the idea was we would get these kids together every week and we would teach them how to dance, because dance is something I've always loved, and also to put diabetes more in a positive light. And then we would teach them about diabetes. And what I didn't expect was for it to create this community. Most people who actually didn't have diabetes, but really cared about the cause, and they really cared about helping people who had diabetes. And then I did, for the first time, get to meet other diabetics, and that was really huge. So that ended up being the catalyst for what became what we know today as Type Zero Foundation. And today, what we do is, our goal is to create a place of everyday support for families and individuals impacted by diabetes. And we do that through monthly events, monthly outings. We get our community together. The goal is to have a good time, have fun, and for people to get to spend time with others who are going through the exact same thing they are. We have mentorship in there as well, where people can be paired with someone who might be more experienced and feel like they have more control over their diabetes, and help the person who is newly diagnosed or who feels like they just don't have a handle on it. And then the last part is the dance part, because we know that's that's the passion. And so every now and then what we do is we actually put together dance performances that tell stories about diabetes, and we perform them at events, most events that have nothing to do with diabetes, because it's a really cool way to really start this dialogue around this issue, around supporting people impacted by diabetes. That is Type Zero in a nutshell. And I'll also say, for me personally, my goal is really to empower people just like you guys to be your own strongest advocates, because you can, and you can make a lot of things happen. So yeah, there we go.
Thank you for sharing, Christina. That is awesome. I'll go ahead and pass it on to Damon and Michael if you want to just talk about the history of AYC and why you all began.
Passion. And when I was playing sports, and I played it for a good part of my life, and one thing I realized when I retired, the lack of resources that a lot of students, um, uh, children had, as far as getting to the facilities that I had with the kids, and I had to try to find a way to raise money instead of pulling out my pocket because it was putting me at a disadvantage. So I came up with AYC in 2015, and in the process of doing that, I reached out to a couple people, and reaching out to a couple people, I got in contact with Damon. Before I go into Damon's part, which is humongous, we focused on the programs that I focused on: the kids fitness, adult fitness, functionality, longevity of life, and I was just about the nutritional part of it. I reached out to Damon. We had a conversation about 2 days, 2 day conversation. Let him know the vision. Next thing you know, we partnered up, and he brought a whole new aspect to AYC. And I'll let Damon share a little bit of that.
All right, thank you, Michael. So yeah, the aspect that I brought to AYC was the it was also the nutrition and fitness part of things, but it was also the part of being and having diabetes. Right, you know, my son being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and just the importance, excuse me, of uh, physical activity, staying active, also, eating right. And with that, there comes a better quality of life, especially for people that have type 1 diabetes, right? So the focus became like getting out there, wanting to inspire, empower our kids because they are the future, right? Once we're long gone, I say it all the time, once we're long gone, our kids are still going to be here. So it's important for us to do what we need to do to make this place a better place for them. So what I started to do was reach out to the different schools, elementary schools, and junior high schools in our area to go in and do after school programs, um, from sporting programs, whether it's flag football, basketball, baseball, and even non-traditional things like dodgeball, kickball, but just showing them the importance of being and staying active. Like both myself and Mike are passion sports. We both come from that sports background, but at the same time, like achieve your champion. Excuse me again. Achieve your champion is about being a champion in life, right? Whatever it is that you do, right? Just being a champion. When you talk to people, whatever the case may be, and you're saying, well, this is something I want to get better at. I want to champion this, right? So we all want to be a champion. Now, your definition of champion may be different, but at the end of the day, we have achieve, right? Achieve your champion. So that means you have to work for it. And that's what we're trying to promote, to the kids that we come across and that we connect with, that we continue to follow up with, and just make sure that at the end of the day, again, like everybody understands that you can achieve your champion in anything that you do.
Awesome. Yes. No, that is wonderful. And I love both of y'all's mission statements. I think both of them are super important in understanding, I guess, from a kid's perspective, exactly how to navigate the disease that they're dealing with. And the best way to do that is just through community and through, maybe putting the focus on dance instead of putting the focus on sports instead, and making sure that we're staying active and taking care of oneself. I'd love to know what some key needs are for someone affected by this treatment area from the both of you.
Say it again.
For,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael.
No. You go.
Okay, so when I was thinking about the answer to this question, I realized that the needs on the outside really are the same as they are for people who don't have diabetes. So we know that one of the key needs that we all have as humans is to feel a sense of belonging and acceptance within the place that we are in, the people around us. We want to have that. With diabetes, it's the same thing, but it's just a little more intensified, because for us, feeling a sense of belonging means being able to take care of our condition fully, being able to give insulin like we need it or take the medication we need to take, and feeling like people understand the disease, but even if they don't, they're willing to learn about it. So our needs are the same. They're just a little bit heightened. And that's part of what I think needs to be understood by the public, is just asking questions is one of the best things that you can do. If you don't know a lot about diabetes, ask questions, and just let people know that you are there for them and that you see them and that you hear them.
Awesome. And I'll go ahead and piggyback off of Christina. So what I would say is definitely the awareness, asking questions. And, people need to know that there are communities out there, right? The support is huge. And, I'll say that I talk to families, because also I'm a part of JDRF, that are in low income areas that can't afford the supplies, the things that they need for care. And being a type 1 diabetic, Christina, as you know, like having the supplies and the things that you need to take care of yourself, to manage your diabetes, to live, right? It's not an option, right? When you're a type 1 diabetic, you have to have these in order to live. So support, we need to make sure that everybody understands that no matter how you can support, but just support, because it's needed.
I love that. And speaking on the support side, what are some programs that you all run to help families and their kids when they're navigating, this disease and this new life? Because, as Christina mentioned, she was diagnosed when she's 13. And so, this it's a new sort of thing that I think a lot of kids are coming into when they're diagnosed at a young age. So how do you help them navigate that change? And what are some programs you run to help families be that support system for their kids too?
For Type 0 Foundation, our monthly events are one of the core things that we provide. It has become a great way for people to have the support that they need. And but the other piece of it too, because they're not just events. People can go to events, but every monthly event that we hold is literally thought is put into every minute of what we're going to be doing. There are goals and intentions that are really what they're centered around, is people feeling empowered, that when they leave that event, they feel better about having diabetes than they did walking in. They feel like they have the resources they need to be able to get the medications they need to get, or whatever it is that they need. They feel like they are equipped to be able to do that. So that's one of the biggest things that we do to really help people on an individual level.
And I'll jump in and say, so a lot of education, right? Like I said, we're in the schools, and there's a lot of kids newly diagnosed, that are scared. Parents are scared, so we just want to make sure that we educate them, right? And the importance behind that is that will help alleviate some of the stress that is out there. Because I think back to when my son was diagnosed, and I knew nothing about type 1 diabetes, even talking about it now just gives me the chills. But with Achieve Your Champion and our focus on fitness and nutrition, our programs, again, we stay in the schools. We're doing a lot of sport, a lot of sporting activities and things like that. And to also tap into, I'm quite sure everybody knows, there are a lot of athletes out there, athletes and entertainers, that are type 1 diabetics, right? And they've accomplished and achieved their champion because of where they are. So being able to show the youth that, look, this can be done by reaching out to different athletes and entertainers and having them advocate for type 1 diabetes is something that kind of we're working on as a part of Achieve Your Champion as well.
That's awesome. Speaking on the athlete side, Michael, what are some ways, are you still in contact with anybody from the NFL, and have they been, available to come and join any programs that you have going with Achieve Your Champion? Or, if you want to speak more to the work that you're doing with the kids now in high school and how you're empowering them, because I know you work in a area that has a lot of kids who are a part of marginalized groups. So maybe if you can speak to those two things, that would be great.
It's very important to me since I started the foundation to always try to educate kids as much as possible about the nutrition that they put in their body and also how they treat their body. I'm in the industry that our body is our business, and the best way to get our body to be a business. And when I approach it to them like that, everybody wants to have a business. Everybody wants to do good with, but how do you affect and get your business to be as optimal as it actually can be? And it's to feed it, put the oil in it. I get the opportunity. I have the greatest job in the world that every day the kids come to me. I don't have to go out there to get them. It's a little bit more difficult. When I started off AYC, I was chasing kids around, going to schools, meeting with administration, giving them documentation on diabetes. But now since I'm already in the infrastructure now. I can just walk up to the counselor's office and say there's people that, just tell them about my nonprofit and tell them how I can assist and come in and assist. One of the things that I do to combat the food shortage or the food deserts that we might have in these areas is that I supply food. A lot of times the donations that we get are easily and ready for me to go out there and take them to places that I need to. In the summer, we always have some kind of physical activities that we'll bring in the equipment. And a lot of times the donations that we get help us get the equipment, and we bring it in and we're allowed to use a lot of fields with the nonprofit. AYC has, I think personally, have saved many lives, pointed a lot of kids in the right direction. With me having a football background, having a pretty good NFL resume, it helps people to open up the doors and be ready to listen to me. But I was just straddling the fence at first before I met Damon. When Damon got in, he allowed me to grow. He allowed AYC to become what we believe is the potential powerhouse right now, because we are eventually or indirectly saving lives. And I implement that in the school system. I feed the kids. Teachers are like, "Book, you always bring these kids food." Well, I'm always going to give these kids healthy options. And again, I hate to talk about the donations, in which we've been good with donations, and we've been blessed. But the donations allow us in South Grand Prairie to bring breakfasts in the morning or snacks for the kids during the day, healthy choices. I would say the school system here and the cafeteria meals aren't terrible like they used to be, but it gives them an option in between. I can come. One of the things that I preach is education is key. What I mean? Well, that's one of your major resources. And so when I'm in the industry or the institution of learning and I'm able to teach these kids, I definitely put in a healthy lifestyle when I do it.
I love
and
that.
my friend, let me just tell you. When I first started, it was packed. With a lot of the guys that I played with coming and wanting to be involved. And at first it's exciting. For me, it wasn't just exciting; it was a passion. One of the things that I always instilled in my kids, and they always got. And I just wanted to make sure every young athlete or every student or athlete that was in need had the resources. And so that's what made my excitement grow into a passion. And then, again, and I like to continue to congratulate Damon for his part in AYC, because it's just flourished. It's been, we've been able to go from, we started in Texas, we was able to go over to California, and now in probably about 2 or 3 years, we're probably getting to North Carolina. So, but
Oh,
it's not the help.
awesome.
A lot of it is the help from the people that just, Damon's real humble. Damon, sometimes, he spreads his wings large and he flies high. Sometimes I have to tell him, don't bump the sun. And I love his passion. But we're, 2 or 3 years we're planning on, and all of this is the help from our donations. I mean, people, I guess they love what we're doing, especially, going out there and inspiring these kids. And we're giving them many messages, we're giving them many messages. And a lot of the messages that we're giving them are life learned lessons that we've been through. So AYC is just, but going back to some of the guys I play with, they, first 2 or 3 years, they were excited about it and everything like that. But the passion grew, and 9, 10 years later, we're still out there changing lives.
That's great. That's great. Damon, I don't want to go in without you having the opportunity to speak too. So please chime in if you'd like, or I can go on to the next thing.
Well, first, I'd like to say, Michael, thank you for what you said. I really appreciate that. No, so I'm just going to speak to, the nutrition part, right? Again, like the community that we're in is low income. So, when Michael talks about donation and things like that, that's what drives and helps us. Like we go into the schools also, there's kids out there that they don't eat at home. They don't have meals at home, right? So one of the things that in programs that Michael did start, going back when we talk about programs, is a program, it's SAC. We use a lot of acronyms, right? And SAC, playing football, SAC and quarterback, Michael played defense. SAC stands for Satisfying Appetite Consumption for Kids. So what we do is we go in, and, a lot of kids, they want to eat McDonald's or French fries or, burgers and stuff like that. But what we do is we teach them the basics of understanding nutrition, like, what proteins are in what vitamins are in what, what I mean? Things like that to get them engaged, right? And then that's when we can kind of just dump the healthy eating on them. But yeah, nutrition is very important for us with AYC. Like Michael said, being a professional, your body's a business. You got to take care of it. I was listening to an interview about LeBron James. LeBron James last night just became the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, right? They said he spends $1 million on his body, having a personal chef, just making sure they eat the right foods. It's super important. And that also plays into the quality of life that you have by what you put in your body, what you put in the temple.
Yes. Yeah. No, totally makes sense. I love that. I'd love to shift the conversation a little bit now into access with care and, how you all are helping families when they might go to the doctor and they might not feel like they're being listened to. I know this is something that's happened to a lot of people in my family. To me, of course, going to the doctor and saying that I am in pain or that I am, having a hard time with this and not feeling like my physicians are really listening to me for whatever reason that might be. I'd love to know more about how you all are helping for people to navigate that and maybe any personal experience you all have had with that as well.
Okay, this topic definitely is near and dear to me because of my personal experiences and the hundreds that I've heard from our families. So when it comes to being able to help with this is where I would say that's what I do as a public speaker. And that's one of the things that I love the most. Type 0 is helping on the individual level. How can we help each person within the family system? And then when it comes to public speaking, that's where I'm trying to help on the public level to really bring awareness to this. It is a problem. You're right. This is where the term, the trust gap, comes from. It's the inability to be able to trust the information you're getting from the doctor or the nurse, from whoever is trying to help you. And I know that most of us have felt that way before at some time or another. And if you haven't, just look at the pandemic that we're in. I'm sure you felt that way about COVID at some point. You felt like you couldn't trust the information you were getting. And that's what it can be like. But again, on a more intense level, because diabetes is a very serious condition. And while it's possible to live a full life from it, and most of us do, you can still die if you are not taking care of yourself, which is why, you know, me, Michael, Damon, Savvy, this is why we do what we do. So on a personal note for me, a year ago, I had to get a surgery done. It was my first time that I was going to be getting a serious surgery done where I had to be put under anesthesia. And really quick, I want to say for anyone who knows what this condition is, it was not for my diabetes. I was getting surgery for what's called endometriosis, which is basically where you have tissue that's supposed to be in a certain part of your body, and it just begins to go in other areas of the body. And it's a condition for women. It makes your periods extremely painful. And just like diabetes, it's a condition that a lot of times people might have stereotypes about and judgment about and not fully understand how severe it is. It got so bad for me that I literally had to have a surgery done to remove it from my body. Where this comes in with diabetes is that I went in on the day of the surgery and they knew that I had type 1 diabetes. And by the time I went in that day for the surgery, I had already been given really unsafe advice from the nurses before that point. I had been told by phone call to stop taking my insulin the day before, which would have been really dangerous if I had actually done that. And I was just very grateful that I understand how it works. You know, I've had diabetes long enough to know that that was not a good move at all. And when I went in the day for the surgery, they told me that I could keep my insulin pump on. And I also had what's called a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor. I had that on as well. And my goal was for the nurses and everyone that was a part of the procedure, for them to be able to see my blood sugar numbers while I was under. So I was trying to help them out. And then when I woke up from the surgery, all of my devices were missing. They took the sites off of me while I was under. And afterward, they had said that they needed to remove it in order to get to certain areas, which is totally understandable. What was so scary, though, is that I was not awake for any of that to happen. And when I did come back to consciousness, my husband was there to help me. And I'm still like, because I just had the surgery done. And they're telling my husband to make sure that I'm hooked back up to my pump. And he was trying to explain to them over and over and over again that he could not do that because they took all of my sites off. And the sites are put on with a needle and it has adhesive. If you're not aware, it does take a couple of minutes. And it was literally impossible for me to get the treatment that I needed. It was one of the most stressful experiences I've ever faced as a diabetic. And it only happened a year ago. I thought I had everything down and this happened. So this was just a case of not having awareness and a lack of education that was missing. And that to me is just an example of probably stories that so many people with diabetes have, unfortunately. There you go.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I mean, that is incredibly scary to not have for you to not be able to voice your consent to that or your opinions on that, for someone to just go in and just do something that is super, super scary. So thank you for sharing that. And hopefully
Yes.
through, you know, with Savvy and through Type Zero and through AYC, we're making a change in those practices and just, you know, making sure that patients and caregivers are a part of how we do things in general, you know?
Yeah, and what I'll say also really quick to that point is that I could have seen that whole situation and I could have just pointed at everyone and said, you know, you guys did this to me, like this was really horrible. I could have died. Like I could have totally gone there. But one thing that we try to stress in Type Zero is that most of the time situations like this are learning opportunities. And I think that this is something that we can connect in other areas of our life. When we're going through a situation that we don't feel like others understand, it's a learning opportunity most of the time. And that's really the only way we can make change happen, is by coming at it with that understanding that they probably don't know, and that it's up to us to teach them.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. And that sort of falls into the conversation of race too, right? Like there's a lot that we go through as Black individuals that will never be understood by people who aren't Black. But it is important for us to talk about these things so that there is some sort of awareness and we understand that racism doesn't happen in a bubble. It is a full system and it is a full, thing that all of us are combating and that affect all of us. And so thank you for that, and just piggybacking on that point, yeah, it's important when we're talking about that conversation too. I'll give the floor to Damon and Michael. Did you all want to add anything before I go on?
Michael, you got something you want to go? Or
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
so I will jump in and kind of share a story, and this all goes into just like I was saying earlier, support. We talk about the awareness, the education, but we all have to support. We got to support one another. You know what I mean? And a few months ago, I got an email, and it was from a lady named Anastasia Kulumba. And the way that she was able to get in contact with me was through Savvy. She's in, I believe it's, I hope I pronounced it right, Machakos, Kenya. And she's actually a nurse at the Diabetes Center of Machakos, Kenya, where those kids there, they can't afford the supplies, the insulin, the glucometers, and things like that. So she came across the TBR champion and she reached out to me and wanted to know if there was any way that I could help. And I told her that, I was going to do my best to try and do things to achieve your champion as well, to try and help her. After the few weeks had gone by, us continuing to talk, she told me about a condition that she has. I can't remember the condition right offhand, but she was just saying that like her condition causes her not to be able to help at the hospital for these kids that need her. She's a nurse. So not to be long-winded, I would just say that I want everybody to just understand that if we come together to, especially in the Black community, being this is Black History Month, to just support one another. I feel that in our community, everybody wants to compete, right? My philosophy, not just, and I won't just say it to adults, but I promote this to the kids. Like our philosophy is that we don't compete, we collaborate, right? We build relationships because at the end of the day, that is what is important. Those relationships are going to take you places that you could not even imagine. When we talk about, again, like as Christina, what you went through, having a relationship with somebody else that you can explain to educate what you went through. So hopefully they don't go through it, right? And that as long as you work, you educate yourself on things, we figure it out, we conquer it, and we become better because of it. And that right there is achieving your champion.
Yes, it is. I love that. I love that. Thank you. Lastly, before we open it up for questions from everyone, I wanted to ask, how can people learn more about your organization? And from this entire webinar, from you, what is something that, like one thing that you want someone to take away from learning more about your organizations and more about diabetes?
For Type Zero Foundation, you can learn more about Type Zero by going to our website at typezerofoundation.org. It's completely spelled out. And from the site, you're able to donate if you would like, which helps us to be able to fund events that are completely free for our families. We never want income to be the reason why someone can't get the support that they need. So that's where that goes. Also, if you are local in the Central Florida area, you can volunteer with us. We love having volunteers, and our volunteers are the ones that really are the drivers of the support, because they're there to push everyone together and hold these beautiful activities that we do, which is super fun. And then also on social media, Facebook and Instagram, you can follow Type Zero at Type Zero Foundation, but also you can follow me at Type Zero Ninja, completely spelled out. And I love connecting with my community. What I would say, is that the more stories that I can hear from you, the more experiences that I hear from you, that helps me, because my goal is to be that voice. On the public scale. So but also we can just work together. The more we got to get together, we got to band together through this. So that's how you can connect with me and with Type Zero Foundation. And in terms of one thing that I'd like for all of you guys to take away from today, it's that change happens starting with one person. And I think that it can be really hard to see that sometimes, especially when we get caught up in everything that's happening in our world. I was literally just the other day, I was over the holidays, I should say, I was in conversation. It was me, my husband, and my brother. And he was saying, he's like, I just don't know how I feel about bringing children into this world. It's just, what kind of world do we live in right now? And I was explaining to them, I said, it's very easy to see it that way, because we get caught up in the pain that we're feeling. And if it is with race, it's the pain of not feeling understood sometimes, or the fact that things still aren't fair all of the time. But then when we look for positives, what we find is that every person that we celebrate that has made change happen in our history, they are one person. And they started that way with a goal that they had in mind, with something that they knew could help other people. And so I encourage everyone who is watching this webinar, whatever it is that you want to be doing to help the world, you can do that. It starts with you. It has to start with one. So that is what I will leave you with. Thanks.
I want to piggyback off of Christina and some of the things that she said. One of the things she said earlier was something about empowering the individual. I spend a lot of time in the community, and I call the community is the actual place that I work. I see the product that they put in and the product that we put out. One of the biggest things is, and Damon, just to reiterate what Damon said, is community. Go in there and affect somebody. If it's not AYC, if it's not Savvy, if it's not Type Zero, go out there and do something. And all it takes is one. When I started off the foundation, I went out there. I was swinging in the dark, and people just start coming to me and feeding into the organization. And right now, it's not where we want it to be, but it's blossoming. There's some things we want. There's some goals we have. But it's a community effort, education, awareness, getting people out there. And it doesn't take a lot of time. I know time, a lot of people think that time is money. Yeah, time is money, but time is saving lives. And you make time for things that are important. These kids are important. These things that we do, we take for granted. We got to be around. So what I want to leave with before I let Damon close it out and give the information on how anybody can get in contact with us. What I want to leave with is just community involvement. If we take care of ourselves, we don't need anybody else to take care of us. If we educate our kids, we get them in the right system, we stay behind them, we encourage them continually. We don't have to rely on people to give us misguided information. We don't have to rely on people because it'd be people that care about the community giving out this information. So community first. And that's what I want to leave with.
Nice, Michael. So, what I'll say to go ahead and close it out is, for one, I'm just going to talk about passion, right? And, whatever you're doing, whoever you're giving to, make sure you're passionate about that cause and what they're doing, right? Michael and I, we can sit up here and talk about Achieve Your Champion. Christina can talk about Type Zero. This is what we do. This is our passion. I say to a lot of people when they talk to me, like, oh, AYC, what do you do, this and that? Like, do you make any money from it? No, we don't. This is what I call, this is our passion project. Like, if we were making some money from this, I wouldn't be working with JD. Well, I wouldn't say that because, again, you see my passion. Not only am I doing AYC stuff, I'm also with Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation doing the same thing, pretty much the same mission, same cause, right? So just understand like that, what we're doing, we are super passionate about this. And speaking for myself, I don't think there's anybody out there that's more passionate about what I'm doing at all. You know what I mean? And if you want to find out more about Achieve Your Champion, you can go to achieveyourchampion.com. You can see everything that we're doing. We got a lot of different programs, outreach programs, our after school health and wellness. But go to achieveyourchampion.com and check us out. And what I'll leave with, and I'll keep it super simple. I heard a couple of quotes that I kind of took on and made my own. And the first one goes, as a common courtesy to the generations coming behind us, please leave this place better than you found it. That's what America, that's what we need to do as a whole, black, white, green, yellow, whatever. Leave this place better than you found it. The second one is education and information and support changes situations. That's what I want to be taken away from this webinar. Thank you guys so much for having us. This was amazing. And again, I'm going to go back to passion. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but there's no one that you will ever find that's passionate about helping people. When I leave this earth, that's going to be, and I want to be my legacy, that I was able to help make this place a better place.
Good job, Damon.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you all for sharing and your stories and more about your organizations. This was really, really wonderful. And I want to now open it up to any of you all who are in our audience here. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section or in the chat, and I'll just keep an eye on it. Or also, if you want to put in some parts you enjoyed, feel free to do that too.
I just like to say, nobody has to be scared. Just, hey, let's go. Let them rip. Ask the questions. I'm much better answering questions than I am at talking anyway. So.
All right, we have a question here.
Cool.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Christy.
No, I was going to try and give you guys some creativity, spark some creativity by saying, if there's anything that you are maybe having a difficult time with right now in your life, or you're struggling with, asking about that is always great too. I guarantee you, we'll help you feel a little bit better by the end here.
Absolutely. So from Abe here, he is wondering, for anyone, what would be a helpful change in the healthcare world when it comes to parents dealing with a child getting a T1D diagnosis?
Oh man, this is a good one. That's a good question. What would be helpful for parents? And I mean, probably, I think the same is going to be true for anyone that is diagnosed at any age that you are, is immediately having people in your corner. That is why Type Zero Foundation was started, because in my family, we did not have that. And it's mind blowing to me today with everything that we're doing, everything that AYC is doing. I'm always reminded that we have not yet reached everyone, and that people are literally being diagnosed every day. And more people feel that sense of being alone than they do feel supported when they're first diagnosed. It can be traumatic. So I really think that the most important thing when someone is diagnosed is just that they have people that actually understand, that are able to be there within hours of the diagnosis and say, I am here with you and you're not going to be alone through this.
And I'll piggyback off Christina. So what I'll go back to saying is exactly what she says: support, having a support system, and also, social media is huge. You can go on Facebook, different platforms, and connect with different T1D communities. That parents can share their stories that will help. So it's about like reaching out, tapping into resources and asking questions. Christina said in the beginning.
Thank you both so much for your answers, and thank you, Abe, for your question. We'll continue to hang out here and wait for anyone else who might want to join in. I wish I had planned ahead with some music or something while we wait, like some Jeopardy music.
I have a song in my head from what I was listening to right before it. Just start humming it,
Yeah. Abe said, thank you so much for the answers. Of course. From Sarah, she's asking, what is the most surprising systemic problem you encountered while building your organization?
I can answer this. One of the things when creating my business, one of the things that I did, I always tried not to go and ask anybody for any capital getting started. One of the things I did, I got into a situation where we were requesting something and someone was like, well, just go to the bank. I think the walking in there, I think the system sometimes can view a certain, well, let's put it like this. My financial literacy wasn't to the point where some people's were, that when I approached the financial institution, that they were leery about giving me some of the investment money that I could have used. I don't know if this is systemic problem you talk about as far as operating my nonprofit. So I think that was the biggest one. I do encourage my kids now, students alike, even though I don't teach financial literacy, and I don't teach them how to balance their bank accounts and do things like that. But we have a resource at the school that one of the requirements in order for them to graduate at the school that I teach at is to take a financial literacy class, and that was one of the, I think, the systemic things that kept me from not kept me from flourishing, but allowed me, I had the opportunity to still put my own money in it. You know how people say, if you're going to build something, use somebody else's money. I think if I didn't have the capital, it probably would have been staggered at that point. But I think that's one of the institutions that's been around for a long time that I would just say discriminates off of how you look when you come into the building. I hurdled that obstacle because I did take the proper precautions of doing some things when I was in school, getting some things after, saving, putting some of my money back and letting it work for me. But being in the school system, it's not readily taught. Sometimes you get into situations where parents are working, two jobs in order for to keep the lights on. So that's where I come in the school system and be able to, teach the kids or make them aware. I can't teach them everything within a year, but it makes them aware and point them in the right direction. And I also always emphasize education is wealth. We probably won't have that wealth that we were promised that was taken away through some of the trials and tribulations, through some of the systems that were put in to hamper Black folks' progress. But still, right now, I think in the era we live in, besides for Reconstruction, I think it's the best era that Black folks have with opportunities to achieve. But in order for them to achieve, we need to go through what is supposed to be free, is the education system, and take full advantage of that. And that was one of the hurdles that I overcame with with actually getting some of the equipment that the equipment I was like a $9,000 machine. It was something that propelled kids to run faster and things like this for my athletes. And I eventually got it anyways, but I wanted to go to the bank and get it, and they were just like, it's not going to happen. And credit score was pretty good.
Ariel, could you read the question one more time?
Sure, of course. They'd like to know, what is the most surprising systemic problem you encountered while building your organization?
Okay, so what I would say is that things. One, people, I don't feel like in the 5 years that Type Zero has been running, people have not always realized how important it is to be able to service all populations, including people of minority groups. And that can be really challenging to get other people to understand. So again, learning opportunities everywhere. So it's just about continuing to share your experiences. I think that's a huge way that we can help people to have that understanding. And then we also have to personally understand that not everyone's going to get it, and that is okay. I had one more thing, but it's gone.
That's okay. If it comes back to you, we'll come back.
Okay.
We have time for one more question, and we have a question here from Matthew. They'd like to know, do you have experience, positive or negative, from referring your community members to get involved with medical research related to living with T1D? I can repeat that if needed.
I'm sorry, go ahead and repeat that one more time. Ariel, I'm sorry.
Sure. No worries. So the question is, do you have experience, positive or negative, from referring your community members to get involved with medical research related to living with T1D?
So that's a great question. I will answer yes to both. And pretty much some of the families that I've communicated with, again, being in a community that's low income, that can't get all the help and support that they need, it's tough, right? So you have to listen to those stories about how they're not getting the help, how upset they are. And all you can do is, for one, listen. And again, support. Keyword support. You know what I mean? And that's where it takes a community, right? It takes a community to help how we want to help. On the positive side, so I'll use my story as an example. So for me, again, that's outside of AYC, that's what I do with Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. It's about funding for research for a cure, right? Research, education is important. Like I said earlier, changes situations. Now, as far as medical wise, and my son, like, we're fortunate. Like, he has good insurance through his mom. He has good insurance through me. One of the things about JDRF is that because I work for JDRF, all his supplies are free. They're covered at no charge. Not everybody gets that. Not everybody's fortunate enough to do that. So that's why there are foundations like ours to help, and other foundations that are out there. So I would just say that, again, just everyone use your resources, support when you can, if you can, be passionate about wanting to help, and there you will again achieve your champion.
Awesome. Okay. I think that is all that we have time for. I want to say thank you to everybody who has attended. It has been a really, really wonderful, time being able to share about our experiences and to learn more and give the opportunity for Achieve Your Champion and Type Zero Foundation to be here and learn more about their organizations. I really, really appreciate your time, and thank you. And to our presenters, thank you so much for being a part of this and for believing in Savvy's mission. And I hope that, you know, through this, we've been able to also show, at least from my perspective, how much I believe in what you all are doing too. And so thank you so much for being a part of this. And thank you to everybody who joined. I hope to see you at the next one. The next one will be February 15th with Karen Peterson. We'll be talking about empowering the individual and developing a sense of agency. She is a wonderful advocate for health literacy and just learning more about the healthcare system in general, so we know what questions to ask at the doctor. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be next week around the same time at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you
all so
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.